Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's a new one. It's a whole new thing I'm doing. It's called the Throwback Thursday edition of the Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 92. And what better way to kick off Throwback Thursday with none other than Rams legend, 1969 MVP, and hopefully very soon Hall of Fame quarterback Roman Gabriel. How are you doing, Roman?
Well, Jake, that's nice of you to say those good things. I can remember when I first came to the Rams, my name was A.H., but I'm doing fine, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate the time. Obviously, it's not every day you get to talk to someone as legendary as yourself. My mom, who's not even a football, just to put it this way, she knew exactly who you were, so... Well,
I'm very fortunate. My dad blessed me with his name because one of the things that a lot of people, when they first meet me, they say, I got a great name. And when you think about it, all those great quarterbacks that are in the Hall of Fame, like the great Johnny Unitas, what a name. How about Bart Starr? Can you believe that one?
Yeah, right? No, it's a fantastic name. And, I mean, you joined an organization that had some big names. I mean, Norm Van Brocklin, Bob Waterfield, obviously yourself, and then later on you have, Jim Everett, Kurt Warner, hopefully Jared Goff at some point, Vince Ferragamo. So, been a lot of...
and Elroy Hirsch, Crazy Legs signed me.
Yeah, and Elroy Hirsch is a huge name. So
I know.
So... I mean, it's really, really cool to have you on, and I got a bunch of questions for you because, again, it's not every day you get to talk to somebody as legendary as yourself. So,
in my own mind, Jake.
Well, I mean, you have quite the skill set there. You're in the College Football Hall of Fame. Hopefully someday you'll be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm hoping it's really soon, and I believe it should be really soon, but, we'll get to that.
Well, it seems like you got to die to get in, Jake. Because my good friend Kenny Stabler, look at how long it took him to finally get him. He had to die.
Well, this podcast got really grim really fast, Roman.
Okay. And look at Jerry Kramer, how long he's waited to get in.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. But, I mean, it goes along with football. I mean, your acting and broadcasting career, I mean, is there anything you can't do?
Right. In this day and age, I can hardly walk, but no, I was proud to be able to do a lot of things. And that's the greatest thing about having been an NFL player, especially in L.A. The people you meet, all of a sudden somebody wants you to go on Wonder Woman or Sheriff Lobo or make a movie with John Wayne or go to Vietnam with Bob Hope or even make a little small movie with Jackie Gleason. How do you beat that?
I don't think you can. I mean, it's really impressive. I saw the Wonder Woman thing and I was like, wow. I mean, I just saw that movie like last year. It's like a reboot of it, but and then I see that I was like, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll get right into it. You were drafted in 1962, first overall in the AFL draft by the Raiders. But then you were also drafted in the NFL draft, second overall by the Rams.
Right behind my good friend and roommate Merlin Olsen, one of the greatest ever.
I actually had Phil Olsen on the show, so I did know that. It's
Oh, yeah, if Phil hadn't have gotten injured so early in his career, he could have been possibly near as good as his brother Merlin.
Yeah, no, he had that unfortunate injury in, it was like the All-Star game thing that he was talking to me about that they would never do anymore. It was like the college All-Stars were the top guys in the league, and I mean, that would never happen, but...
We got to play against Green Bay, yay!
So, my question, Roman, is how on earth do you react to getting drafted that high twice in 1 year? I mean...
Well, I'm trying to think of how many great quarterbacks there were. I can think of one, Sandy Stevens, and I'm not sure. Did John Hadle come out the same time I did, or was he a year before me? But he came out at the same time that John Halo was great. Sandy Stevens, Minnesota. Those are the three that I can remember offhand.
And how did you decide who you were going to ultimately sign with? I mean, I know if it were me, I mean, I've been a Rams fan my whole life, so if it came down to that, I'd pick the Rams. But how did you decide?
Well, in those days, you didn't have an agent, so I went to my coach, my college coach, just as coach. Here's the deals that I've got on the table, and I'm not sure right now what I want to do. So I said the Raiders offered me $12,500 and a $2,500 bonus, and the Rams offered me $15,000 and a $5,000 bonus. He says, "Well, look at it this way: the Rams are established, and it's not for sure that the AFC is going to make it. And also, Bob Waterfield, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback, maybe you can learn something from him." And that's how it was decided.
That's fantastic. I love it. I really do. It's crazy because, having Phil on, he mentioned he was drafted by the Boston Patriots and he was traded to the Rams. So,
yeah,
it's crazy. All these different avenues, and there were more. There were more rounds back in the day. It's just crazy to see how things evolved, and obviously you don't have guys getting drafted twice anymore. So, I mean,
yeah, you know what was interesting too, Jake, is that when the AFC finally came along, they used to hide players.
Really?
So the NFL couldn't get them.
How about that?
I know.
Well, I'm glad they didn't hide you.
Well, it's hard to hide a big Filipino type guy.
So, before your dream of playing in the NFL begun, was there an idol or anybody that you looked up to that possibly led you to playing football at the professional level?
What? You'll be surprised at this answer, because originally as a young person, my dream was to become a Major League Baseball player. If not basketball, and football was my third pick.
Wow.
And when I got to high school, coming out of junior high school, I was a defensive end and a tight end and had 1 year quarterbacking. And when I got to high school, one of the greatest coaches I've been under, Leon Brogdon, of course, he's passed away, but he coached all three sports. And we practiced, I remember we would practice summer ball, and the great Sonny Jurgensen, who's from Wilmington, he came out and spoke to the team, and I watched him throw the ball, and I said, "Holy cow, maybe one day I'll have a shot to be somewhat as good as him."
Oh, man. Well, I mean, that again, it's the avenue thing. Everyone goes, different ways. I mean, you have all these three-sport athletes nowadays, and it's kind of crazy, seeing yourself. I mean, you wanted to play baseball, and you ended up being one of the better football players to ever play the game. So it's crazy how things work out that way.
And then when I got offered a grant and aid to go to North Carolina State, the one thing I wanted to be able to do was at least my freshman year play all three sports and figure out which way I wanted to go. And NC State was the only school of all the schools that I was recruited by that offered me that opportunity.
Huh. And who were the other schools that were after you?
Well, one is where I really wanted to go, because being sort of an Irish Filipino Catholic at the time, Notre Dame, but I didn't have a car, and I said, "Doggone, it's too far to thumb back and forth from Indiana back to Carolina."
Mm.
Of course, all the big four, Clemson, Duke, Wake Forest, Virginia, there were a lot of schools.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I figured that it's only 120 miles from my hometown to get to NC State, so it's easy to thumb back and forth.
I think that's pretty incredible. And the fact they gave you, the opportunity to play, three different sports, that's also pretty huge as well.
Yeah, when they came to recruit me, the defense, because I played defense in high school, and so they sent the defensive coordinator to know that I was going to get to play both ways, and they sent the head baseball coach and the freshman basketball coach. So it wasn't a hard decision making, and they had what I wanted to go to school for, so it was good. I never regretted it.
So when you went to the NFL, obviously, I mean, you won the MVP and you played with some fantastic players, but what was your favorite moment or one that really sticks out to you playing, at the professional level?
I would say the last 4 games of the '65 season stand out because up until the last 4 games, I had not played much, and Bill Munson was our quarterback, and we were good friends, and he got hurt, so I got to play against Green Bay, Baltimore, St. Louis, and Cleveland. We beat all 3. We beat 3 of them but Baltimore. And then I would say the best team season we had as a Ram was that '67 season when we had to beat Green Bay, and then we had to beat Baltimore, who was undefeated at the time, to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Those probably stand out, and then third would be in '69 being selected MVP by your peers.
Yeah, that definitely. I mean, you could be the best guy in your generation, but if there's somebody that just happened to have a better season than you may never come home with that hardware.
You're exactly right. And we played that era when Green Bay, Dallas, the Vikings, and Baltimore were the best of the best. And like nowadays, you can lose a few games, but in those days, you could hardly lose any games because you didn't play that many. And we always played all 4 of those teams.
Yeah, and then, I mean, who is your, playing, I mean, it could be, with the Eagles as well, but who is your closest teammate, in the NFL?
Well, at the time I was playing when I first retired, the 2 closest were our middle linebacker, Myron Patios, who still lives out your way in California. Great guy, great football player. And my center, Ken Iman, who passed away. But Kenny and I spent a lot of time together on and off the field. I would say those 2 would be the closest.
Wow.
And third closest, of course, the next guy would be I'd have Merlin Olsen because we roomed together. And then he helped me get that part in that John Wayne movie. I didn't mean to leave Merlin out because we roomed together.
That's so cool. Like, honestly, that it's just it's pretty crazy. And I know just that whole concept. I mean, you're part of like an era where people refer to the Rams uniform as like the Roman Gabriel uniforms. Like
I saw that.
Like, I think it was Steve Weish.
Last year, when they went to the blue and white, and then I guess it was the 49ers they got beat by, and they were in those god awful gold and blue uniforms. And I talked to the head of public relations, Kyle Ebersgerd, I think his name, because whenever they say go blue and white, he had emails, we're going to blue and white. And then I hit him and I said, yeah. See what happens when you go to that old putrid throw-up color, don't you?
Oh, man. You're going to kick the hornet's nest, Roman. I got to say, I like whatever has horns on it. I mean, that as long as, the Rams don't go to a helmet that has, the Rams' actual logo, I'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, that's the best logo in the game, I think.
Oh, without a doubt. I don't even think it's competitive. I mean, I know, the Bengals have their stripes and everything, but, I mean, they're the Bengals.
Look at Bengals.
But no, I think that's so crazy because it's, obviously they're called, the Fearsome Foursome uniforms, but I also hear it very often called the Roman Gabriel uniforms. So I think that's pretty crazy, that they, you have a uniform named after you. And I mean, I'm not a huge, uniform nut. I like uniforms, but, at the end of the day, I really just love the sport itself. And the Rams could come out wearing pink and purple for all I care, as long as they put W's on the board. But
well, Jake, if that happened, that would be the cheerleaders playing.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. But I mean,
oh Lord, no.
Would you watch if that ever happened, or that would be it?
Well, you can call me if that ever happens, and I'll let you know when it happens.
So, we're talking about some crazy things right now. What's the craziest moment that you had in the NFL, if there was one?
When the Rosenblums took over the team, they were having a big shebang at the Coconut Grove to let all the reporters, and they had all the searchlights, and they had the Fearsome Foursome, and Jack Snow, the great Jack Snow, myself, and Dick Bass, who pound for pound nobody was any better than the little Dickie do. And everybody was waiting for Dick to get there, and he came to, remember that, what is it, about a quarter of a mile off the Wilshire to go into the Coconut Grove? Dick came on an elephant. But that was Dick Bass.
Oh man, that's well, that's definitely a crazy moment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you could have seen that coming.
Heck no.
Is there anyone?
And then I remember when Harlan Savari was a coach, and we were playing Baltimore back there, and on a Sunday we were boarding the bus to go to the stadium, and Dick came in a little late. He had a tuxedo, and he'd been out all night because Dick could party hardy.
Oh my!
And
God.
I remember Harlan getting on the bus and said, "Guys, see this? Guy like Dick Bass brings a tuxedo to go to the church on Sunday morning. If all you guys was like Dick, we wouldn't have no problems."
Was Dick Bass the craziest person that you played with?
The craziest sane person. Dick could have been a preacher or a professor. Actually, he came to practice every day in a different look. He always kept you laughing.
Who was the craziest not sane person?
The craziest non-sane person? Oh, my goodness. That's a toughie.
That many?
Well, I'm trying to think. Well, the great safety we had who should be in the Hall of Fame, he did all his playing on the field, but he was very serious during the week. Oh, Eddie Meadow, we called him the Mouse, because he was quite like a mouse, but come game time, he roared like a lion.
Well, that's pretty crazy. I mean, that disparity between mouse and lion, obviously, that's completely polar opposite there.
And to this day, I think Eddie still holds the record for most interceptions by a defensive back on the Rams.
In a season or just all time?
All time.
All time? I will definitely have to check that out. But I think
check it out. Check it out because Eddie should be in the Hall of Fame.
Ooh, there we go with the
because he made two All-Decade teams in his career.
I'm looking it up right now because now you got me intrigued.
Okay, all right.
So let's see here. We have we have a ton of stuff, but let's see. Most interceptions, of course, I have to scroll all the way down to career, and that is, yeah, you're right, 46.
Yeah.
A meter. Wow.
How many fumbles? Look at the fumbles he recovered.
I never understood that. Like, there's certain guys that just always happen to be in the right place at the right time. And you'll see, like, other statistics, they're nowhere near where they could be. And then, like, fumble recoveries, they lead the league or something. Let's see here. Recovered 3 fumbles in 1966, so that's not what I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah, in 69 he had one for a touchdown against the Eagles. Or maybe that was an interception.
Let's see here. Fumble recoveries. He had 22. Wow.
That's big, isn't it?
That's crazy. That's a big number. I mean,
oh, yeah, you look at check his, when you have a chance one time, check his numbers against some of the guys that are in the Hall of Fame. and Eddie's probably surpasses him.
Yeah, see, the Hall of Fame, I don't think they always get it right. I think, I mean, obviously, like, one of the biggest things I look for, Roman, when I'm trying to decide in any sport who belongs in the Hall of Fame is, can you tell, the story of the game without them? You can't do that without Roman Gabriel.
It's interesting you mentioned that because a couple of people, David Ray, who was our kicker and a backup receiver, David was one of the best, and somebody asked him that question. He said, much like you said, he says, well, at the time, where would the Rams would have been without Roman?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's how I look at it. I mean, you were transcendent, and I mean, I was saying it to my buddy Vinny that got us connected. At the end of the day, I don't know if you follow like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio, but
I'm a big rock and roll fan.
My man Roman, I love it.
Yeah.
Are you a Beatles fan?
Yes, Ringo Starr, my one I like best.
I love it. It's funny that you mentioned that because the Downtown Rams podcast intro song is Revolution by the Beatles, and I put like all these different sound bites in it, but yeah, I'm a huge rock and roll fan myself.
You know who one of my favorites is? It was Barry White.
How about that? Who's your favorite of all time, like favorite rock and roll artist?
Well, I don't know. Does Fats Domino fall in that era?
Now you're kind of going out of what I would know, but
I'm sort of going into blues rock and roll. Okay.
My dad would know it.
Well, there's nobody was better than Elvis.
Well, Elvis is, I mean, he's amazing.
And then Jerry Lee Lewis.
I could talk to you all day about rock and roll.
Okay.
I mean, football, rock. I mean that's right up my alley. But the reason I asked you is because with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the biggest criteria, and I said this to Vinny, was influential. And I think in many ways, I think you were very influential. I don't think like giant quarterbacks like yourself, which are now like what you have to be in order to get drafted in the first round today.
Yeah.
I mean, you were not a common everyday type of player. I mean, you were a special talent, and I honestly think you influenced like certain players that maybe they end up playing the game at your size because they saw somebody that could do that. I mean,
yeah,
it's not for certain, but I mean, I'm sure you've gotten guys that were like, well, I thought my size and everything, I would be a defensive end, but Roman over here showed me that I can play quarterback. And that's what I want to do.
Zavari, you can look this up because Harlan Zavari once said that I should be a tight end.
That would, I mean, you had some rushing touchdowns though, so I mean, you were definitely athletic.
I think I had 30.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were athletic and you could really throw the ball. So.
And I was probably ahead of my time when it came to weight room because that's how I got my size. I started working out in the weight room as a sophomore in college, and I never missed, even all through my NFL career. And I think that's one of the reasons I made it as long as I did, because I was strong.
That has to be it. You put in the work, and that's, I mean, the longevity is there for you. And obviously, you got to get somewhat, like, lucky, at the professional level that you don't end up in, the wrong place at the wrong time and end up like, like a Joe Theismann type of injury.
That's right.
But luck, you can't just attribute luck to having a long career. I mean, a long career comes with hard work and, really putting in the work and making sure you keep your body conditioned. So, I mean, that it seems obviously like you did that because, you played for a long time. So,
Yeah.
So with the, with the NFL today, is there any quarterback that you see your game in?
Oh, I would say the guy that maybe he and I come the closest would be Ben Roethlisberger.
Huh.
Because he's a big guy, stands in that pocket.
I think that's funny. I was going to say that, honestly. I think
really?
I see it a lot. But I mean, also, like with you playing in this day and age, I mean, and I think this is one of the biggest things, with the Hall of Fame and everything. People just don't get like the stat disparity. I mean,
oh, you're right. That's
like if you played in today's era, you'd have over 5,000 passing yards every season, and it wouldn't even be like close.
The closest that I ever, probably my best individual year that I got to throw the ball was that first year in Philly when we were always behind, and I ended up throwing the ball more than I ever had in my career.
Yeah, and just, imagine yourself in today's game and being able to, throw to like a Julio Jones type of receiver. Like,
I mean, with all the, an exotic formation in our day was replacing the tight end with another receiver. And nowadays they got 4 and 5 receiver formations. Oh
yeah. It's become quite the vertical game for sure.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I mean, if you had to, obviously, if I took Roman Gabriel MVP season and put him in today's era, who would you want to be throwing the ball to out of today's receivers? If you could only have one receiver on your team.
Not including the guys that I threw to back then?
Not including.
Okay, not included. Oh, I like that. Julio Jones of Atlanta. Brown of Pittsburgh. I like both of those guys.
Yeah, and they're among the best in the game, so they definitely wouldn't be bad choices for sure. But obviously, I know you'd want Jack Snow.
Oh, you got to have Jack. See, because we didn't throw the ball enough. If we threw the ball as much as Jack would get in the hall. Because I've never saw a guy come across the middle and catch the ball like Jack Snow.
Yeah, and it's didn't he go to Notre Dame? That would have been crazy. You guys probably would have ended up, right?
Yeah, I know. You'd be surprised too when we first got him, because you remember Notre Dame played that box offense where Jack was as much a tight end as he was an outside receiver. So when he came to camp, Jack weighed about 210 pounds. And it wasn't until Coach Howard Ellenbogen got him down to about 180 that he became as good as he was.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, it's the same thing. You put yourself in today's era, and I'm sure, the same goes for Jack Snow. Now you put you both in today's era, and now we're talking.
I know. But you know what, Jake? It's like my dad once told me, he said, son, when you talk about if a bullfrog had wings, he wouldn't bump his butt either when he jumped.
I love it. I really do. It's, you're really humble, and I can obviously see that because, while it would be great to, be able to play in today's era, what you did. You know what your teammates did. You were not shy about making sure your teammates got credit. Basically.
And the only thing that I would change about today's game, quarterbacks are open season. Quarterbacks, a lot of these guys, I don't really think they get strong in the weight room because I made so many plays by being able to knock guys off.
Yeah.
In fact, I got hurt more in the pocket than I did scrambling because at least when I ran, I could find somebody else to hit other than me.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. That's honestly, and I'm not in the weight room, and I really like Jared Goff. Don't get me wrong, but that's my one issue. He's got toothpick legs, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. You know, one of the biggest improvements he made from his first year to last year is that he learned to be able to know where the pocket is.
Yeah, no, he definitely.
And you know what really gets me too is that when I think of golf and like Case Keenum, who had a great year in Minnesota, and Carson Wentz, who was a good one from Philly, and then he went to Kansas City and the Rams. And all of these guys at one time or another were in that other Ram offense before when they took over. And it shows you when a guy gets with a team who has a skill set and people who know how to handle them, how much. But look what not Carson Wentz, but Nick Foles. Look what Nick Foles accomplished for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because he had a guy like Peterson who was a heck of a quarterback, but he just got to back up Brett Favre. But all these guys, once they, as much as just like myself, when Ted Marks wrote a game, my game changed, and as we can see the difference with golf with McVay there, his game's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I firmly agree, and you know, it's one of those things where it's not. Like, I know a lot of people had an issue with Jeff Fisher and whatnot, but I think ultimately what it really came down to was the fact that you took Jared Goff from Cal, who, in my mind, you know, because I evaluated both him and Wentz, and I had a really, really high grade on Wentz. And I just felt like, you know, Goff was going to take a little bit, and I felt like the media might have flip-flopped, you know, the two, because they took Wentz and they looked at him and he's from North Dakota State, and they took Goff and he's from Cal, so well, you know, Goff played in a, you know, better offense, he played with better competition, and I think they forgot the biggest thing. Goff is 2 years younger than Carson Wentz, so I thought the learning curve was going to be there, and you know, everyone said he was you know, pro ready and everything. The problem is Carson Wentz, Roman, was 2 years older than Goff and had all these offensive minded guys ready in his corner.
And he was going with a team that had a great quarterback as a coach.
Yeah. And
that Jeff Fisher was a great defensive coach. Now, if Goff would have had a guy like McVay his first year, it wouldn't have been quite as much of a learning curve.
Absolutely. And, you know, I got to say, because I picked McVay, handpicked him in November, because I felt like Jeff Fisher was ultimately going to get fired. And it was just an awful year. And I picked McVay. I saw this young, up-and-coming potential head coach from Washington. I watched him in his press conferences. I watched his offense with Kirk Cousins, and I saw somebody that had a chance to really, you know, ascend and become one of the best in the game and turn whatever team he went to into a Bill Belichick type of, you know, like Patriots squad that, you know, established a long-term amount of excellence and consistency, because that's the key. At the end of the day, you want to have a consistent franchise that can win every year instead of just going all in on 1 year. So I agree with you 100%. You did good. I appreciate that. It's funny, Roman, because everyone was saying, well, he's too young. Okay, well, the team that doesn't believe he's too young, they're going to get some guy, and he's going to shock the world. And sure enough, he did. So,
and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be there he could be there as long as Brady.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely, I hear you there. You know, with that being said, you know, what are your thoughts overall on Jared Goff? Because this, you know, obviously this is a Rams podcast, and I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but like, what do you think he has shown a tremendous ability of doing, and what do you think like he really needs to improve on in year 3?
I like the fact that from the first year to the second year, how much he improved on staying in the pocket and getting the ball off faster without scrambling out. And then I'm impressed too with his size, that when he does scramble, he's pretty doggone accurate. The only thing I wish they'd give him a set of plays. It's like I told Ronnie Jaworski when I was backing him up my last year, and the great Dick Vermeil was calling all the plays, and I told Ronnie, look, you got to go to Dick and tell him that there's some plays you don't like, but some that you do. Make sure you have a set of plays that you can always call on your own. And I think every quarterback should have that. If they're not going to let them call the plays, they should still have the right to be able to have a set of plays they can always go to.
Yeah, it's a good point. It definitely is a good point. And I'm sure you have that around the league with certain quarterbacks.
Well, look at Brady.
Yeah.
Brady and Roethlisberger, and of course Peyton, he called the game almost the whole time from the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, having Peyton Manning on the field, watching him orchestrate an offense was just incredible. I mean, but, think about that. And then, I mean, the Ram zone running back, it's funny because he actually played with Manning. But Marshall Faulk, when Sean McVay mentions, you want these guys to be the extension of the coaching staff, Marshall Faulk was like having a second quarterback on the field.
That's right.
And it's like people just don't, they just don't understand that. So with that said, I want to give you a hard question because there's a lot of talent on this Rams team.
You mean these questions you've been giving me on hard?
I warned you before we started recording. It was just okay. So my hard question for you, having to do with this Rams team, you go back, to your era, and you have a fantastic team,
right?
But you actually have the opportunity in this scenario to pick one player from this 2017-18 Rams roster. Who are you picking to come on your team?
Well, I'm going to make sure that I got a pass rusher and a run stopper. So I would take Aaron Donald.
Yeah, Aaron Donald. Yeah. Aaron Donald is... And
then my second book outside, we're leaving the quarterback out because he's a given.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'd take the running back. I keep names on the tip of my tongue.
Todd Gurley?
Running back, Gurley. I'd take Gurley, my next pick. Of course, we're already saying the quarterback's there. And I like that tight end who I think he wears my number, 18. Kupp, is his name Kupp?
Oh, the receiver, Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, I like that guy.
Yeah, the only issue is he shouldn't be wearing 18, because that should have been retired. Okay. But
next time you see him, tell him I'm watching him. Just keep up the good work.
Well, I definitely will do that next time I see him. I don't know when that will be, but,
You know what? He'll probably say, well, who is he? But I'll tell you a funny story real quick, Jake. When I was doing the call on radio for the Carolina Panthers, and the great receiver for the Panthers was Muhsin Muhammad, and I did a speech for Bank of America at the stadium with some of their sponsors, and Muhammad was there. And granted, on the road, I always rolled the same plane with the players, and I went to practices. And they showed this little 10-minute clip of me playing, and so after it was over, Muhammad came up to me like he never saw me before. He said, I know you were a radio guy, but I didn't know you played.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Well, see here, Roman, this is why, coming on podcasts and whatnot and being able to tell your stories and everything, this just needs to continue to be passed down because, I mean, it's up to, now my generation's at the plate. Us millennials, we got to keep the dream alive. I mean, me personally, and I'm not trying to take any shots, but I think you might agree with me. I don't believe this league does a great job, a fantastic job, like, Major League Baseball, in protecting and preserving the history.
No, I agree with you. Many of these, the worst part about it is a lot of these guys playing now could care less about who played before them.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's a shame. I mean, I think, I say this all the time with baseball. It's like baseball history, is just, it's timeless. I mean, who Babe Ruth is. You know who Cy Young is. You know who, guys like that Walter Johnson, Satchel Paige. I mean, guys that played
Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth,
Lou Gehrig,
Ty Cobb.
Yeah, I mean,
Honus Wagner.
It's exactly, and it's just, for me, and you mentioned him earlier. I think people need to realize that, Crazy Legs Hirsch had one of the greatest seasons for any receiver in the history of the game. In 12 games, too.
And people tend to forget, too, the other guy on the other side held the record for most catches in the game at one time, Tom Pierce.
Yeah.
And people forget that.
I know. And being a receiver also really limits your chances of making the Hall of Fame, because it's pretty crazy. I mean, what was it? Art Monk retired as the all-time leading receiver, and he had to wait like a year after year. I mean,
well, look at Jerry Kramer. How long it's taken him to get in?
Yeah.
And nobody was better than him. Even today, nobody's better than Kramer.
Yeah, I hear you. And this is really, I mean, obviously you want to have a legend on your podcast. Obviously you want to have a Rams legend on a Rams podcast. But a lot of what I'm trying to do with this whole this whole Throwback Thursday thing, and I'm going to have Rams from all different generations, but when I have, guys like yourself on, I'm trying to keep that alive, because at the end of the day, I feel like it is up to our generation to, continue this, because if we don't, continue talking about these guys, the next generation isn't even going to know who they are. So,
and that's one of the things that is wrong with the Hall of Fame is a lot of the guys that vote now, it's much like the players. A lot of these young guys that vote now, they don't even know who guys are.
Yeah. I think you still have some of that with the Baseball Hall of Fame, but I think they do a good job of, like, my best way of putting it, Roman, is, I think when I'm watching, an NFL game on Sunday, I might hear your name come up, but it'll be because someone is threatening your record of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not even like, tipping a cap to the person like yourself. It's like, oh, this person's about to get passed, and we need to explain because, this person played in the 60s, so it's a big deal because it was so long ago. But they don't, like, go into any detail of that said person.
And the NFL Network, they don't even carry. They used to carry some of the old games, and hardly, I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah, well, was it Steve Sable? He had the NFL films and had all of those, and I feel like they have those games. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If I were to find those games and post them on YouTube, I'm sure they would find it immediately and take it down.
Yeah, I'll send you some of the stuff that I have. When you have a chance, if you'll send me how I can listen to this interview. Oh,
absolutely.
And then I'll email you. I'll email you some of the, like, talking about old Adios and Pat Studstill, who was a receiver, David Ray, some of the guys that I still know.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be up for that. I mean,
okay.
if you gave me enough, I could make you a highlight tape with some Beatles music or Elvis playing in the background.
Okay, I'd be glad to do
that. So, I mean, we're getting to the end here, and man, I really appreciate you joining me here, because this has been fantastic. Very, very special time and I've enjoyed every second of it. But before I let you go, and before basically we're going to end the podcast because you were the podcast, how important is it that you enter the Hall of Fame, and do you ultimately believe you will be a Hall of Famer?
Well, I sort of quit worrying about that because, as I mentioned earlier, when you got a guy like Kramer who look how long it took him to get in, and I look at it this way: how lucky I am that I got to play, and then in my hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, I was one of the first to go in the Walk of Fame and the Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame and North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, the NC State Hall of Fame. So, my pocket's full, really. I do think that you mentioned him earlier. I appreciate the fact that a kid like Benny Sheehan, who went to my school, thinks enough of me to try to do this. And like I told him when he came to see me, I said, look, Benny, I appreciate what you're doing, but it might not happen, but thank you very much. And same to you, Jake, for letting me express myself. You are a tough interviewer. I'll say that for you.
Hey, well, I mean, you had me laughing the whole time. You were one of the best interviews I've ever had, by far.
Well, thank you, sir.
And I love it because, when you can hear someone on the other end of a phone call, and you can hear if they're disinterested or anything. You gave 100,000,000%. Like, I felt like I firmly knew what you meant.
I don't get too many calls anymore because I'm going on 78 years of age. So what little bit I got left, I got to give it to you.
Well, I appreciate that. And
thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll have to stay in touch.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. And if you're ever, I live in upstate New York, but if I'm ever out in L.A. and you ever happen to be out in L.A. and you'd like to catch a game, I would love that. Well,
if you're ever down to Little River, coming to Little River or Myrtle Beach, let me know.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. I could definitely do that.
Okay.
All right. So, hey, thank you so much, and you take care of yourself, and we'll be in touch, and I will send you this pretty awesome interview as soon as I publish it on Thursday.
I appreciate that, Jake. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Take care, Roman.
All right, you too. Don't get hit by a car.
I actually have already gotten hit by a car.
Well, if it happens again, make sure you get your left arm down because you don't want to hurt your throwing shoulder.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Have
a good one, my friend.